So for my lentil soup that I'm going to be making, first of all we're going to need some, yes you guessed it, red split lentils. We're going to need a smoked gammon joint. I got nearly 4 kilos worth, but my plan with this is to cut it in half, have half for a Sunday roast and the other half for the lentil soup. We've also got a full pack of carrots that are going in there. We're going to have 2 to 3 onions that are going to go in there and 1 whole swede. So we've got all of this here. I'm going to just prep it, put it together. I'll take you through step by step on what you need to do. I did buy the gammon joint on the bone, as you can see. I paid £15.65 from Tesco. They're really good. I like Tesco's gammon joints. I think they're the best ones I've found so far. And I got everything else from Tesco. Tesco's actually got the vegetables on for 19 pence, except the onions. So I think it's 19 pence. I actually got that from Aldi's. I think Aldi's swede's really good. And I pay 49 pence average price for swede. But I do know that I've got them on for 19 pence now for being the festive season. So, like I said, I'm going to take you through step by step, show you guys how to make the soup. So yeah, let's get on with the video. So we've got a nice big pan for the soup. It's absolutely great. I paid around about £30 from Asda for this. I've also got another one over here, which I also paid £30 from Asda for that one as well. So we're just going to cut this, put it in, then we're going to fill it up with water and let it boil for about 2 to 3 hours. Basically until all of the meat comes off the bone and the bone just falls out. That's when you know it's cooked to the bone. So that's just going to go in here. I'm just going to sit that in there nice and gently. And I'm going to come back to that and fill it up with some cold water and then pour it to the boil. So what you've got now after about an hour of it being in the pan, you've got some of the impurities that have came to the surface up here. You just want to remove all of those impurities. As you can see, there's a little bit up here, there's a little bit here, a little bit there. If you leave it in, it's not going to make much of a difference, but for health reasons you want to take it out because it's impurities and you don't really want to be eating that sort of stuff. So I've just cranked the heat up a little bit more. As you guys can see, there's a little bit there sticking up. So the idea is just to keep topping it up with a little bit of water. Here we are. I'll go on steamy. Add a little bit more water in there. This is like taking 1.7 litres of water just in that one take in there. There's a full kettle nearly emptied. So I'm just going to let that cook for a little bit. I'm going to let Stephanie supervise this and I'm going to go and pop in the bath and then I'll come out and I'll take you guys to the next step. It's a lengthy process. It's probably a soup you want to start cooking in the morning. It'll probably be done like late evening, about 8 o'clock, depending on your preparation skills and how quick you are. So we've taken the meat out of the pan. We've got all of the stock here inside of there. So that's basically the soup stock. You're going to keep that. I have exchanged it to a second pan. You don't have to, but I had a little line of impurities around the edge. So I decided to take that out by, we're getting steamy. I decided to take the stock out of one pan and exchange it to this pan. In the meantime, what you're going to do, you're going to add in your, what we got here. This is the roast gammon that's been roasted. That's for the dinner for tomorrow. I'm also keeping this juice here for some nice roast potatoes, so they'll be quite nice. Here we go. Waste not, want not. We have the red split lentils, which we are going to add in now to this. So we're going to add that into that pan. I've also got the other pan just seeping there. I'm going to wash that. Then I'll exchange it again at the end. A little bit of a process here. You don't have to use different pans if you don't want to. I'll just move my juice out the way. And we have the rest of the meat that's came off the bone in there. So that's all there. And I'm just going to leave it in there to stay moist with the lid on. I'm going to let it cool down a little bit. While that's cooling, I'm going to add in the split red lentils. Now these stuff make the soup nice and creamy. So we've got depth of flavour with the stock. We've got the creaminess of the red split lentils. And then we're going to grate our carrots and our swede and dice the onions up. So I'll take you guys through the next steps and I'll show you guys what I'm going to be doing. So I am using a kilo of red split lentils. And if you decide to do 500 grams, just do half the size. It really depends on the size of your pan, on how much you want to use. But it really adds a lot of bulk to a soup, this does. And a nice creamy texture as well. So we're just going to let these cook for about 25 minutes, and then by that time we should have the carrots and the swede and the onions all prepared with a few extra lumps of potato. So the first thing you're going to prep is your potatoes. I'm going to be doing around about half a pack of potatoes. Basically with the other pack of a half I'm going to peel as well, and I'm going to put this stock with the potatoes in a bigger baking tray and do some nice lovely roast potatoes. That's for a different meal. The roast potatoes are for a Sunday roast for this Sunday. I'm going to go for the big potatoes for this, and you're just going to basically use a half a pack like I said. While the split red lentils are cooking, you'll add in the potatoes into square cubes, which I'll show you in just a moment. And this is how the lentils are looking now. As you guys can see, there's still a few more impurities on the top. Anything that froths and foams to the top is impure, so you need to remove that to keep it nice and healthy. I mean, you might not always have time to do that, but I mean that's my preference. If you see much foam come to the top, that's the impurities. It might not just be the impurities of the gammon, but it might also be the impurities of lentils and vegetables and stuff like that. A lot of things do carry impurities, so to keep it nice and healthy, just keep skimming the top and keep it nice and healthy. I've just skimmed a good bunch off there, as you guys can see, and then I'm gonna skim off the rest of that there, and we'll go on to the next steps. As you can see, we keep losing lots of water because we're cooking so many ingredients in like nearly the same pan. I have cleaned the second pan that I was using at the very beginning. I'm boiling another kettle of water because I'm going to keep topping this up to keep it nice and moist and hydrated. In the meantime, we've still got the stock sitting there for the roast potatoes for a different dish. But on this dish we've got all the potatoes peeled, and use exactly half of these. I'm going to cut them on this chopping board, and then I'm going to rinse them again in there to get all the starch off. You basically want to rinse all the impurities off all of the food that you've got, because you're putting potatoes and you're putting carrots in, you've got lentils in, you've got meat in, and in my opinion, I mean everybody does things differently, but in my opinion I like to keep a clean pan and basically keep everything nice and fresh, nice and clean when it all goes in. But one thing you should never discard of is the stock, the juice itself. The juice itself is the flavour to the soup. So I'm going to top this up with some water. Some extra water going in there. There it goes. And you can see how much we keep losing. We keep losing about 1.5 litres to 1.7 litres of water. That's our topped up. I'm kind of thinking we might get 2 pans of soup out of this. I'm not too sure, but it's kind of looking that way. So we've got all our potatoes cut into like roast potato size slices, or cubes if you like. There's quite a few there, so like I said before, I think I'm going to get 2 pans of soup out of this just by looking at it. So I've just exchanged half of the stock and the lentils from this pan to another pan. I'm quite surprised how much I'm able to get out of this. We'll eat this pretty good. Everything's looking nice and creamy. I'll show you all this. So that's what the lentils have turned to, so a nice lovely cream. And like I said before, lentils are a good, like, healthy source of fibre, and also thicken up your soups nice and lovely and add a lot of depth and flavour along with the stock. So now we're going to add in a handful of a few potatoes into each one, and this is going to fall in there. So I'm going to just exchange this one into this one over here. Leave that one to sit in there. Potatoes nicely freshly washed, as you guys have seen. I might get away with having some, oh yeah, sit that one up there. I might get away with having some roast potatoes, but I might not. So we're going to add in about, depending on how potato you want it. Oh, splashed everywhere. Nightmare. Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there in the end. I have to find a technique of stopping these things to splash, maybe just sliding down the side and The potatoes are going to add bulk to the soup, a lot of bulk, and everybody loves a lot of potatoes in their soup. Every time I make this, everybody loves the potatoes in the soup. So you guys see I just add a nice handful there, and I think like everybody when they have the soup like, oh yeah, I've got 3-4 potatoes. And this soup, realistically, it goes back nearly 100 years in the United Kingdom. Nearly every family in the area of Newcastle who I know actually knows about this soup, so it must be like a really old tradition that's being passed down from generation to generation. But this is how my family have cooked it for a lot of time. So we have some diced onions here. I've diced about 8 to 6 onions, and I'm just going to spread them out in between each pan. It's entirely down to you upon the size of the soup that you are making. I'll leave a little description down below to make a standard size, depending on what size you want to make. I mean, we have a family of 6, so we do make a big portion of soup. But I'm quite surprised that I was managed to get 2 big pans from this one giant of gammon and a Sunday roast. So I'm going to pop these in, take you guys to the next steps. I've got 1 handful of onions in there. Oh, that's a splashy. A little bit hot as well. That's going to sit there. And then we're going to put another handful in this one. And try not to make it a splashy. Right, step back, Stephanie, 3, 2, 1. Ah! That actually worked. Right. Okay, so I'm guessing it's going to be 2 handfuls in each. There we go, looking good. So we've just got all of the veg prepped here. We've got a turnip to cut into suitable sizes for the blender. All the carrots just go in nicely. We've all washed them down. We're going to pop them into the blender. I'm going to blend all the carrots first, then I'm going to put in the swede, and then I'll take you guys to the next steps just after that. Also, if you haven't got one of these electrical blenders, they are absolutely great. It's a cutter and a blender. It's a combi blender. You can pick these up at Argos, Amazon, Asda, Tesco, you name it. You can get one of these for roughly about £35 upwards, and they're absolutely great to save a great load of time and make an absolute great soup as well. About 3 carrots in here, if they're going to fit. No, it looks like only 2 is going to go in. You also have this press here. I might actually do a review on this at one point on the channel. If anybody's interested in me doing a review on this grater, just let me know, /cutter. But yeah, we're just going to grate it all now. So we've got all of the meat there. I'm just going to put that bit of juice in that's left on the top. Here it is on the bone. Basically, we want to take this bone out because obviously you're not going to be having that there. Rip off any good bit of meat that you can salvage. Of course, you don't want any grittle in there, so just like leave the gelatin here and the grittle, any other bits of grittle that you get to see on the edge. You don't want to be putting that in. You're just going to get the meat off. So the meat normally falls off quite easily. Of course, depends on how long you cook it for. But maybe this was a little bit undercooked, I'm not too sure. But no, it looks absolutely great, actually, it looks really good. So, I'm just going to discard that. That's going to go out. We've also got all of this gelatin and fat here. I just want to take that off. You don't want to be putting any of that in. All of that needs to come off. We're just going to discard of that as well. We're going to just fisher through the meat, get all the meat off that we can find. And on this part, actually, it looks like there's not much fat apart from the big part that I took off and these little bits that are underneath here. So I'll take you to the next steps in just a few minutes. So we've just taken all the fat off the meat. It is a little bit of a tricky situation. We've also discarded the bones and things of that sort. And over here we've still got the dish, which we last had it in, still salvaging all the juices and flavour. And then over here is the leftovers, which is going to go on the bin, fat, collagen, and basically a few bones underneath there as well. So now what we're going to do, we're going to tear up this meat into portionable sizes, then we're going to add it to the pan of soup. Okay, so what we've done now, we've actually divided the meat into favourable sizes. We've actually taken away all the fat, all of the impurities, which that's what I call impurities, things that aren't very healthy for you. And now we have a good sachet of healthy meat to go straight into the soup. So what we're going to do, we're going to divide it into the two pans. I mean, you're looking for about an inch thick of meat on each one. Let me just feel it with your hands, tear it apart. It's not so hard once you get into it. It is probably like a little bit gruesome for some people who don't want to get hands on, but you know what they say, hard labour, cut out the middleman, hard labour, cut out the middleman and save a lot of money.
And you don't want to make it too thin because it will just shred and disappear. The meat will disappear, and you want nice chunky bits of meat in there. You don't want it to dissolve. Yeah,
a nice inch thick, like Stephanie said. So now what we're going to do, we're going to add this to the pan. So we're going to add about 1 handful to this pan, and I'm going to say 2 handfuls. As you can see, the stacks of meat going in there. And over to our second pan over here, which I would say this deep pan probably isn't really good for cooking soup in. If anybody's interested, don't buy a deep pot pan such as this, because all the soup seems to sink to the bottom. So we're just adding in some extra meat to that, add a little bit more, and then we're going to add in the extras over to this one. I can't believe how much meat we've actually salvaged from that one gammon joint. We've got a roast dinner and 2 huge pans of soup. Who would have thought it? From Tesco's for £15. And now what we're going to do, we're going to add in the last bit of juice on that classic stock. It's like a nice lovely stock that adds in loads of flavour. So we're going to let that sit for a little bit, but before we do, we're going to add in a little bit of salt and pepper. So we're going to add in about a tablespoon full of salt. You can feel the measurement with your own hand, it's about that. It's not very much. And what this is going to do, it's going to bring all the flavours together, and it's going to contract all the water that is left in it. Just gently spin that around. There you go. That's the last dab in there. And then, depending on how much black pepper you want in your soup, I mean, I add about the same amount, a good handful of black pepper into my soup, about a tablespoonful. So if you're pretty good with your measurements, just do what I did, just use your rough estimate. If not, go with a tablespoon, grate it all in, and then pour it in. But that's what I'm going to use on this. So now the meat has been added, this is what it's all looking like. We have some good sashes of potato, meat, vegetables. It just looks absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at the size of this, it's just absolutely great. We've got huge chunks of meat in there, everything. So I'm so proud of how this has turned out. It's nice and creamy on the top. Look at the cream across the top there. That's what I was talking about with the lentils. You get a nice creamy texture across the top. I've just added some salt and pepper, and boy, is this smelling so good. So good indeed. I cannot wait to serve this out to the family, the children, Stephanie. Oh boy, seriously, my family literally loves this soup. It's one of our most favourite soups that we've ever made, but it's looking so good. All the water is becoming evaporated and everything's starting to bind together and create a nice lovely flavour. Boy, my mouth was just watering stirring this now. So I'm going to put this camera down, serve this out,